Man, I'm telling you, play this riff for just 1 minute a day, and I guarantee you're not going to want to put down your guitar. Now, before we dive into the lesson, make sure you stick around to the very end because I've got another surprise for you, a free gift that you're going to love. So what makes this 1 minute riff so great? Well, it utilizes droned notes in the form of open strings. So it starts off where we play the open A string, and there's going to be all kinds of activity right below it on the D string, but we're keeping that low A pretty much playing the whole time. So it kind of is like an anchor, right? Like a musical tonal center to the whole thing that we're doing. So we start with our third finger on the 11th fret of the D string, all right? And then we're going to play both the open A and the fretted note on the D string, all right? And then we're going to play the 9th fret with our first finger on the D string, then back to the 11th fret, then we're going to move up to the 12th fret, all right, then back to the 11th fret, then 9th fret, then 11th fret, and then 7th fret. So the total, beginning of that riff goes like this. Right, so the whole time we're playing that open A string, leaving that droned note that kind of creates this really interesting clashing, right, of the frequencies that follows the major scale, and it just sounds nice and sweet. And then once we do that first part, we're going to do essentially a repeat of it, but with a slight ending difference. We're going to go. All right, so we're changing it up a little bit so it's not too repetitive, right? Starting with the first part. Then the second part. Then for this part, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to play, just quarter notes. We're going to be downstroking on the, right? Or rather, eighth notes. We're going to be going 7th fret on the D string and then open A, and then we're going to palm mute it just for added dynamics. Right? This sounds like something you'd hear in like an indie rock tune or something, like something a band from the 90s would play, which is what I grew up listening to. So it's super nostalgic for me just coming up with this stuff. And then once we get to this part, once we finish doing that palm muting part, we're going to pretty much play a version of the same thing that we just played, but now we're going to be droning the open D string, and we're going to be playing notes on the G string. So we're going to go 11, 9, 11, and then 12. So, right, same basic idea, just shifted, the strings we're using. So we're going 11, 9, 11, 12. Then we're going 11, 9, 11, 7. Right? And then once we do that, we're going to go straight back to the original motif, right? Going back to the open A string. Right? We go back to that palm muted part. So it's essentially something we've already covered. We're just going back to it, right? So just starting from when we switch over to technically the 4 chord in this chord progression, even though it's not formally a chord progression, but having these droning strings implies that, right? We're starting in A, right? Then when we move to D, all right? We go straight back to the A part. And then from here, we're going to go to the 5 chord, which is E. So we're going to be droning an open low E string. And we're going to start with our first finger on the 9th fret of the A string, right? Then we're going to bring it up to 11 and play that twice. And then we go back to 9 and then 7. And for this part, I like to just use my first finger on the 9th fret and then bring it down to the 7th fret. And then come back to 9 and 11. All right, so we have. All right, so that second part, we're actually going to play that 11th fret there 3 times. right? Then we go back to 9 and 7. Then we're going to conclude the riff going back to A. And we're going to walk up, right? So we start going 11, 9, 11, then 12, then 11. And we're going to the 7th fret, and we're going 7, 9, up to 11. So we're ending it on the major third there. So it creates this nice interval that almost implies that there's chords happening, right? Even though, we're only using 2-note intervals instead of 3-note chords, it's still implying, pretty much without a doubt that these are the chords that are moving in the progression. And hey, if you're enjoying this lesson so far, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you want to continue having an unfair advantage over other guitar players. Okay, now let's recap everything that we just went over. This is a very short riff, right? But there's a lot of movement happening. So we're implying 3 chords and we're playing major scale notes over each chord. And it just sounds like a nice complete musical idea. So starting with the very first part, again, we're going 11, 9, 11, 12, 11, 9. Then we're going 9, 11, 7. Okay, and then we're going 11, 9, 11, 12, 11, down to 7. All right, then that's where we're doing that palm muted part, which kind of, like I said, adds dynamic and also kind of sets us up for the next movement, which is going over the, the D string being droned out and implying the 4 chord, right, D. So then we go to 11, 9, 11, 12, 11, 9, right? All right, then we go 11 and 7, sorry, 11 to 7. All right, so we just do that real quick for that one part there, then we move straight back to the A string. Okay, so we're going 11, 9, 11, 12, 11, down to 7, and then palm mute that with those 8th notes, right? Okay, and then from here, we're going to the 5 chord. So our first finger's jumping over to the 9th fret of the A string, and we're gonna play 9, 11 twice. It's so funny to say 9 and 11 so close together so many times. I apologize. Just happens to be where these notes are. So do that twice. Then 9, 7. Then we're gonna do 9 and then 11 3 times. And then 9, 7. Then we go back to A, right? 11, 9, 11, 12, let's see. Yeah, 11, 9, 11, 12, 11. That's a lot of numbers to remember. Then we're going to walk up the scale, right? Going from 7th fret, right? 9th fret, 11th fret. And we're essentially walking up the root, the 2nd, and the 3rd scale degrees, right? And then we're landing on that 3rd, like I said, that major 3rd to give it that sweet ending and implying that major chord. So we're going. And I like to let that ring out. Use your words. Okay. And then, for effect, or you can even slide into it. You can kind of slow down a bit towards the end. So you're implying an ending, just add a little bit of zhuzh to it. So just to make it more musical and less like an exercise, because it's not really meant to be an exercise. It's meant to be musical, but at the same time, you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone here because you're exercising not only your fingers, but also your ear, right? This is really great ear training because you're working with a scale while droning the root note, and this is helping you get familiar with how each note sounds in relation to the root note. Lastly, what I'm going to do is go through this whole riff at tempo, and the tab's going to be on screen. So if you'd like to follow along, by all means, join me. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and... Having a fun, go-to guitar riff just like this one is the best way to get your guitar in your hands, even if it's just for a minute. But I bet that once you start playing this, you're not going to want to put your guitar down. And you know, just as well as I do, that when it comes to getting fast results on your guitar, it is information overload out there. So I've made your next move super simple. Grab this free gift that'll show you exactly how even a 5-minute practice session is more than enough to get massive results in your guitar playing. It's called the Practice Session Cheat Sheet, and thousands of guitarists are already using this to see incredible results in just days. So be sure to claim your copy by clicking here or checking the link in the description box. And this is the part where I thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I'm Eddie with Guitar Mastery Method, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.